Welcome, everyone. It's another episode of Not In, All In, where we just tackle the news of sports that we just want to mention and have fun with discussing. And I'm Kirk Buckner, and I got Chris Meridian and Dave Whitlock with me. How you doing, gentlemen?
Staying cool. How about you?
Well, it's Seattle, so it doesn't get too hot here.
Yeah, it's pretty hot down here in Texas. Let me tell you what.
Yeah, we had Texas weather this past weekend, so
Yeah.
you know what that's all about.
I thought you were going to like morph in a boomhauer there for a
I was
brief
gonna
second.
say. Or Hank or Daltrey, yeah.
I tell you what.
My God, yes. But we are going to talk a bit about Texas sports, but I want to kick off with the NBA Finals. And I wanted a 7-game series. I got it. I'm very happy with the outcome. Not that I had really a dog in this fight. I didn't. But I think a star is now officially born. And this is what we need. This is what the NBA needs. You, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, congratulations. You are the NBA champion. You are the MVP. And you're not even 25 yet.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, a lot of major sports will put on the marquee teams onto their primetime networks, Dallas Cowboys, Green Bay Packers, LA Lakers, New York Knicks. So I don't think we saw enough of Oklahoma City this year, considering they were the number one seed. And they actually, they played great. They were challenged. It was all they could take to get past Denver, which of course is a repeat champion and a rival MVP. But certainly from a team perspective, they were the best team. You felt like when they lost, their losses were correctable. It just wasn't their day, that they still were to go out the next day and perform. You never felt like they were beat, at least mentally. You looked at them and they just kept bouncing back. They were resilient, young team, super. Many of them under the age of 25, and so yeah, a dynasty superstar. I think it's great for the sport. LeBron's not going to be around that much longer. Several other stars are not as maybe not as popular. So I hope the NBA leans into this and promotes Oklahoma City. We see them more and more in primetime games. I want to see the big games against the Lakers, the Celtics, the Knicks, those type teams next year. On Christmas Day, all the times we used to see Jordan, we should be seeing SGA.
Yeah, for sure. Young team, like you said, so hopefully they can keep those contracts under control for a while to keep that core together. And you can see them back here, 2, 3, 4 times in a row here. They definitely have the talent to compete with everybody. They have the talent to win year after year. So yeah, let's see where this goes.
Now, I don't want them to win 3, 4 times in a row because we got the Rockets in the same conference.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. But
there's times when a certain second place, if you're in the same league as the Dodgers and you have a good team, you're gonna have trouble getting past the Dodgers, year after year. Same with some of those Yankees teams in the 90s, and so it's going to be difficult to get out of the West. You're probably going to have to go through OKC, as it should be.
Well, let's look at the team that lost. And as much as SGA could be the face of the league, there's somebody who captured the hearts of a lot of people on the Eastern side, and that's Tyrese Haliburton. Haliburton went down with, I believe it was a torn ACL, which has certainly been an epidemic.
Achilles,
sorry. Torn Achilles, my bad. Which we've seen a lot of people go down with a lot of issues. Him, Tatum, Lillard. And Tyrese said right after that he would do it. He would do it all over again. And as much as you sort of feel bad for Tyrese, the sports fan in you wants to hear athletes say that sort of thing. Saying that, I have to wonder, when we've seen so many people go down with injuries. I also forgot Kyrie. There's another one. And it's one of those things where you've got to listen to your body. He had the calf issues going into that game. Someone we're going to talk about a little bit later, Kevin Durant, had issues at the tail end of his Golden State run. I believe he went down. Was it in the finals, Dave? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Yeah, because where he just could not play anymore. I think it might have been against the Raptors. I think in that series. Maybe one of you can look that up while I'm yapping. But load management, which is something that is a big deal and a turnoff for a lot of fans. I don't see how, if I'm a GM or a coach, I'm looking at all the people who went down this year, and I'm not load managing the hell out of people.
Yeah, the schedule is grueling. 81, 82 games, plus back-to-backs, a lot of travel. They do separate them into geographical, so maybe a little bit less travel, but I think it's a necessity. You see guys, I was surprised, and we'll get into the Durant segment later, but, Michael Jordan at the age Durant is now was a shell of his self. He's worn down. He wasn't near as much because Michael Jordan played every game, every year, almost all the minutes, unless they had a blowout, which they had a few, but it's a smart thing to do. You see it more in baseball. Nobody's going to challenge Cal Ripken's record. You're going to have players sit almost once a week, to an extent. You see it in certainly the pitching game in baseball where, it's 80, 90 pitches. You got to shut them down. You don't want to, and it's having the opposite effect, more getting hurt. Different discussion for a different day. But I think you're right. I think load management has to be a key because even the Astros did a lot of it during their playoff runs. Fans would complain, why is so-and-so not in the game today? We got to play our best. We're playing a critical game in July. You're not really, if you're planning on playing that extra month, in case of basketball, 2+ months, you've got to have guys that aren't just worn down, or else you'll fizzle, as other teams. That's the time to do it, just like hockey, the second season, basketball, the second season.
Well, but I think with hockey, it's a little bit different. It's only because, hockey players play hurt all the time, but their injuries are so different. It's not sudden stop.
Right.
In basketball, where in hockey, you can't really stop unless you're hitting somebody where the board hits you, and then you're hurting something else. You don't hear about torn ligaments, or, well, you do, but I mean, not nearly to the same degree.
Great point.
Yeah. So from what we're seeing here, I mean, I think that's going to be something that fans are just going to have to accept. And I know it sort of sucks, especially when you're trying to take your kid to a game, which is why I didn't have kids, so I don't have that worry. So I wasn't disappointing the kid. Okay, all right, we're going to go see KD. He's coming here to play. Or actually Caitlin Clark, who might be here in Seattle. Well, they're going to sit her out because, she's hurt. By the way, I was looking at tickets for that. That's 8 times every other ticket.
Factor's real. We talked about it last episode.
Yep.
1-4.
Yep. And not even imagine how much it's going to be when she actually becomes the best player in the league. If she does. But yeah, and I think that's sort of the bad thing that could come out of this. But I love the fact that so many things that we thought were going to happen in the NBA playoffs didn't happen. Different teams emerged. This can only be good. I'm sure the marketing people hated it, but you've got to find, they had to do this. You have to find new stars. You have to.
And new teams in smaller markets. Go, Chris.
Yeah, despite not having the LA, the New York, Chicago, big city team, I did see a stat or a comment saying that the Game 7 broadcast viewership was up significantly over previous years. So
Game 7 was up.
Yeah. So the interest of a Game 7 with two teams that are not the two marquee cities in the league, they did something right. So they did get some attendance or some viewership up for at least Game 7.
And I guess this has got to be, other than the University of Oklahoma football, that's got to be the biggest win in that state ever, right? I forgot too, because I was at the bar the other day. Big shock, I was at a bar. The Canadian walks into a bar and then he runs. And there were some people, they weren't happy because they said it should have been our team.
Oh, yeah.
And I forgot all about that, despite the fact I was actually wearing a SuperSonics hat because I just happened. It was completely by accident. Yeah. But yeah,
if the Titans ever win a Super Bowl, I will not be lamenting that. Oh, it could have been the Oilers. It's a different team, and I don't know those guys.
Well, it's kind of how I felt when the Nordiques, even though it was the year after.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just That's what wasn't the same. I remember actually when watching that, when Colorado finally won that, there was this lone fan in the upper bleachers who had a little, just a tiny Nordic expander, and they just sort of like focused on that. Oh, there's what could have been, eh?
Yeah.
I want to stick with basketball, and today to your neck of the woods. Another major trade. Kevin Durant has now burned down a second franchise. And I didn't really look to see who they got. I just saw KD's going to Houston. So I think Dave actually told me off on Twitter. My feelings were hurt because
That's right. I told you to shut up.
told me to shut up because I said,
You had a smart ass remark though, so
yeah, I did have a smart ass remark. I mean, this just in, Houston has announced that they're not going to win a championship. Saying that, that was more me taking a shot at KD, and he's an easy target. Durant is, how do I put this? He's got the personality of a pylon. He's got very thin skin. He's the guy who made a burner account to protect himself. And when he finally did win, I don't know that he was necessarily the second banana to Steph, but that's the narrative. I mean, he was the MVP final winner, I believe, in both of them. Saying that, the narrative again is he had to go, he needed Steph Curry to do that. So even on the trade deadline before, when he didn't leave for Phoenix or from Phoenix, when it looked like he would, Golden State apparently had a package ready. He didn't want the narrative that he needed Steph to win a title again. He wants to win this on his own and in his terms. It didn't work out in Brooklyn, despite doing everything he could to get that team around him. It sure as hell didn't work in Phoenix, and both teams are worse off. Saying that, Houston didn't give up that much. And this is a team where if he's healthy, and we talked about health and load management, KD has to be on a lot of load management for sure. The odds makers took them from 18-1 to plus 850, which I think that's a little too much of a jump personally. But Dave, this is your team. You're the Rockets guy. And so your gut reaction, you're getting KD, and then your second reaction when you're seeing what you gave up to get him.
Yeah, sure. So KD, Longhorn, the greatest Longhorn of all time, played 1 year. I don't even think got out of the first weekend of the tournament, even though he had DJ Augustine on his team. He was a great player at UT. So I've always been a fan of his. But at this stage of his career, it's just a little advanced. So the thought process in Houston was they had trade pieces because they had a really young team. They had some interchangeable parts that they could part with, a starter. Like they did with Jalen Green, and not lose that much, particularly if he got the haul in. And so the articles kept coming out. They're really interested in KD. He's on the short list. We all saw the articles. My concern is that we'll see where Green's career goes. He was the second overall pick just a couple years ago. So any top 5 pick in the NBA is typically a perennial all-star, potential Hall of Fame career path, but he hadn't demonstrated the consistency. And so you look at the teams that were there in the finals, and they were able to have a go-to scorer like SGA or Doncic. Not Doncic, Jokic is who I meant, but Doncic is just as good. But you got those guys that you can just get the ball to in half court and score, and they didn't have that. And the postseason was one thing because they lost to Golden State. Here's a seasoned team, with Draymond Green and Curry, who got a little banged up at the end, but really good team. That was just going to be tough to beat just because they're Golden State and they've been here before. You got this young team. But even they went through stretches during the regular season where they would go through a week and they weren't really playing well and the offense wasn't there. The defense was always good. And so they were looking for an offensive scoring piece. And I think Durant can be that person if he's healthy and if they figure out a way. I have a good confidence that their coach is going to be able to mix him in just fine. I think maybe one thing that he brings to the team that I haven't read or has talked about is just a veteran experience presence. Somebody who's been through multiple playoff runs with multiple teams. He can pass on some of that knowledge to some of the younger players that are just had their first taste of the postseason for a few games last year. So overall, they gave a lot of draft picks. You never know how draft picks are going to work out.
Second round.
Yeah, number 10 tonight. And so they have no draft picks this year unless they trade somebody for one. So, which is fine if they're good with the core and they've got a good young core and they've got some guys, Reed Shepherd last year, high pick that didn't contribute right away. So it could work out. It's one of those things. I could also see if they didn't do a move like this and you bring the same cards to the table, you're probably going to get beat by the same Denvers and the OKCs in future years. So you probably need to mix up your hand a little bit and see if you can have a little bit of an edge one way or another. So yeah, overall, I was probably like just worried about his injuries, but we'll see. We talked about that. You never know how a trade's going to be until it's got to play out. Durant could get hurt game 10 and never play again. It was a horrible trade, or he could be healthy for the first time in a while and go through the postseason and take us to the conference finals or NBA finals, and that'd be great. I hope that's what happens.
I think when I'm not worried about giving up like second round picks, because if I'm an NBA second round pick, I'm probably just looking for anyone with high upside. I'm probably going international almost every time, because that's where you find a Jokic, because he was a second round pick out of nowhere. Because most of those top 20 people, they're already off the board anyway. Obviously, Jalen Green for me is he's the wild card here. And I was watching another YouTube channel, because there are other YouTube channels other than this.
This is news to me, Kirk. I only watch this particular YouTube channel.
Yeah, some of them actually have more viewers than I do, and some of them actually have nicer comments. Yeah, wait till we get to Kirk reads the comments episode 4. Yeah, there's Although I think
they're coming.
I think they might have been more directed at you, Chris, on this one, but we'll see.
All right, it's my turn.
Well, there you go. There's another. Don't worry, there's another Beachcombers one, which has nothing to do with you. But long story short, the YouTube thing was about like 5 people who just are not progressing, and Jalen Green was one of those guys. And then you look at him. So he averaged 20.1 points this year, but that's not better than what he's done in the past. He's that guy. He's going to give you 20 points. He's also going to let in 20 points. Yeah. So he's got an even box plus minus every time he's on the court. So, I mean, he's like better Jalen Rose, just without the post-playing career.
Mm-hmm.
So, and getting guards like that aren't that hard anymore, because the way the league is sort of shifted. So Durant can come in, sort of carry a lot of that. I love Şengün. Like how much I know that I think the rest of the country hasn't really caught up to how good this guy is, but obviously, like you've been watching him sort of like grow from probably when they drafted him, like who the hell is this guy, to holy shit, look what we've got.
Yeah, I think a lot of the trade negotiations were don't give up him in this deal, because he's got a lot of skills. He's had some real passes. He can score underneath and rebound, and he's had a few stretches where he falls out of favor of the game, so to speak, and isn't contributing. But he is progressing, getting better every time, and so I think he's a key piece that they were able to keep.
Yeah, and I think also too, now he could build, I don't know that this could be a big 3 around him, but the pieces that he's surrounded by don't necessarily overlap his skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And I like this as a better fit for KD. I got no reason to root against him. I got no reason to ever watch him who would be worse in a comedy show, him or Greta Thunberg?
Oh, wow. That's really low, Kirk.
Yes.
Yeah, really low. Is that are you making fun of her height?
I'm not touching that particular thing, but no.
You do not laugh at my jokes. How dare you? They're dying. Sorry.
I take no exception to the critique of his personality. We didn't bring him over here to be a charismatic fellow behind the microphone. We brought him here to score. So.
Big picture.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
that's my fault for going. You were supposed to corral me. That was your.
That's right. One job.
Well, I think we'll close off with hockey. Our last episode, we made a preview prediction, and between Chris and you and I, we did pretty good.
We did. Yeah, you you caught the sleeper there.
With
I
Mogilny.
was Mogilny. I had been kind of picking him the last few years because to me he seemed like the most deserving non first year eligible player, pretty much since he was eligible, and it just seemed like they kind of given up on ever advancing him. And you made the astute point of noting Igor Larionov being on the selection committee or board or whatever they're considered there, and that may help him. And we don't know exactly if it did, but here we are. Mogilny is finally a Hall of Famer, and maybe I got the reverse jinx thing going here. I just decided in the finals I was going to cheer for the Coilers because I wanted the Panthers to win, and that worked out. I didn't select Mogilny here for my Hall of Fame selection. He's in, so yeah, let's see how that goes for going forward here. But
The one I left off just because is the one I wanted in the most. Because I was going by the prediction of them not putting in Char right away, but I'm very, very happy about that. I don't really have much to say on the builders because I don't know that much about them.
yeah, same here. The little write-ups that we've seen online, they both sound like very deserving candidates for that category. So happy for them. Congratulations. The players obviously are the ones that draw the most attention, and the face of the league in most cases, and I think they got it right. However they got it right.
You think at this point if you stopped playing before 1990, you might as well forget it.
I still think there's a chance for, well, I'm not sure exactly when Brendan Moore
He
retired
got
as a
into the
player.
90s, but
Yeah, I kind of still hold out hope for him that between his playing career and now his coaching career, maybe some kind of two forces coming together to push him over the line. But somebody like Curtis Joseph or players from that era, the Mike Richter's.
well, Richter was big in the 90s, so I was saying before 1990.
Yeah, there's
What is
it's a
there?
fair comment.
I'm an
Fair.
outsider. Is there a criteria like in Major League Base or National Baseball Hall of Fame? You fall off after a certain time in veterans committees. Is it always just an open pool? Just
Yeah,
whoever?
yeah, and they don't say anything really to how they put everything together. They'll just tell you who's on it. They'll give you very loose things, loose criteria that each one can put forth a candidate. But I mean, seems to me they get together, have a few beers, and then they figure it out very quickly because they announce it the day they get together, which is either really good or really bad. I don't know. I guess there's no leaks that way.
Yeah.
Whereas the Pro Football Hall of Fame, there's always going to be a leak of some sort. It's like, especially when you're filming, with all that, like I'm amazed that it doesn't get leaked more often than it is. I really am. Another thing that sort of came up in hockey recently, I don't know if any of you saw that. Don Cherry is officially retired.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I saw the post on X where he ended his podcast.
Yeah, so he's 94?
90s, yeah, 93, 94, something like that, yeah.
And that's someone who I'd love to see in. It'll never happen, unfortunately, but someone who should be in the builder category, and he should be alive to see it.
Who was he still calling games behind the microphone this year, or
well, no, when he got kicked off of Sportsnet, or was it TS? Right. He just would still do like appearances, interviews, whatnot, and then started his own podcast. So I guess at this point he's just too tired to do it. I mean, he's 94. He's certainly done enough, and maybe he's just tired of talking about hockey. Maybe he just doesn't like where he's seeing some of it go, which is also possible. I mean, he was bluntly very anti-European. I don't know how you can I can see why he thought that then, but well, the Europeans play the same way. So that criticism kind of goes out the window, in my opinion. But yes, time passed his opinions by, but in his time, There was nobody more important as a broadcaster. And all he needed was 2 minutes. Nobody can do, there's nobody in that category. Nobody. But that's neither here nor there. Any other hot takes that we want to do here? I'll take that as a no. That's good. All right, we're keeping us on time. I have some other controversial stuff that I thought about talking about, but I'm not going to. So there we go. You're all welcome for that one. Wherever you are, wherever you may be, make today count because it never comes again. Take care, everybody.